Welcome to the Personal Development Mastery Podcast. I am Agi Keramidas and my mission is to inspire you to rise up, grow, stand out and take action towards the next level of your life. I am interviewing leaders, influencers, entrepreneurs, authors, exceptional people who can and will inspire you to improve your life. Tune in for 2 episodes each week, every Monday and Thursday. Welcome to the second half of the interview with Luca Sonzogni. If you haven't listened to the first part of the interview, tune into the previous episode, number 55, where Luca talked about his fascinating soul-searching journey, and he also spoke about yoga and holistic therapies. Luca, shall we talk about nutrition next? And fasting. So you say that you have witnessed firsthand the healing power of fasting. So I would like to start with that about fasting, its healing power, and what's your thoughts?
Okay, so I was freshly graduated from my nutrition course, and I moved to Thailand with no job, nothing at all, just looking to start a new life. And I was very lucky because within a couple of weeks, I got a job offer to be the health manager at a very established wellness, healing, and detox center. Mm-hmm. So I was working 3 days a week because I was still I wanted to make sure I had the time for my meditations, my practice, etc. But during these 3 days a week, I witnessed and actively facilitated the fasting of many people, in total, I think over 1,000, and people as well with a very strong and difficult health challenges sometimes, okay? I was totally new to fasting. Of course, I had a strong nutrition background because of my course, and I had loads of a willingness to learn and develop. But with the guidance of my 2 directors and mentors in the resort, I saw people staying without food, abstaining from food up to 28 days, which at the time seemed like really crazy to me, okay? Like not eating for 28 days. And, amazing results. Most people fasted for about 7 to 10 days. And most people had some physical ailments, and a considerable minority also had medical conditions, okay? So supervised fasting in a resort with a strong methodology, a very well-tested and proven methodology over 20 years, was able to help people overcome so many challenges, and I couldn't believe it myself. Okay, I said, "Wow, this is magic! This is gold! Just not eating food. How is that possible?" And then, of course, my scientific side delved into the research. So there is a fantastic study that is quite ancient, quite old now, but medically supervised water fasting for cardiovascular health, and particularly for hypertension. And, the results were unbelievable. And this is, a proper study, double-blinded, placebo, etc. And on top of that, there are quite a few more studies that look at different aspects of fasting. And there are also some, doctors and different practitioners that apply fasting. And there is quite a bit of studies these days on intermittent fasting, which is a form of fasting where you eat every day, but you restrict the time when you eat, okay? So by seeing directly what fasting was able to do, and by reading the research and discovering the physiology and the mechanism of fasting, I was so drawn towards it that after a couple of years working in 2 different resorts, I decided to set up my own fasting programs, my own fasting retreats. And now in January, I opened the Smiley Retreat, which is a wellness, healing and detox center in Koh Phangan, where we practice fasting, intermittent fasting, whole food nutrition, paired with yoga and holistic therapies. And people come on a holiday, typically maybe 1 week, 10 days, a couple of weeks, but they can stay longer if they want to. And we have different tools depending on what they want to achieve, depending on their state of health, depending on their specific predispositions, constitutions, etc., for them to rebalance, for them to cut back on inflammation, work on oxidation, work on pain, and lose some fat and regenerate. And this is what I want to do for the next few decades, hopefully. And this is my element. I love running fasting programs. I love to see the transformation people go through from a physical perspective, but also from a psychological, emotional perspective. And, it's a true gift that I got, and now I want to share with people. And it's just wonderful.
It is indeed. And let me ask you a bit more about that. So, leaving intermittent fasting aside for the moment. So, assuming we're talking about the total abstinence from food for a period of time, obviously, yes, 28 days sounds a little bit extreme to a novice. But you said something about supervised. So, I'm trying to understand. So what is there to supervise if you tell me that, okay, for a few days you won't have any food? What is the supervision about? Is it the emotional support that you will need because you are hungry and changing?
So if you are an experienced faster, then you can fast anytime you like, whenever you need it, whenever you want to. If you're a new and a beginner to the practice, it's very useful to do it with an expert, because they're going to be different signs and symptoms that are very benign, very related to the way the body reacts to fasting, and can be very easily explained by an expert. But if you are doing it on your own at home, they might be a little bit strange. And, if you want to experience the real deal in the best possible way, I always recommend that you do it with somebody that can guide you and can support you from the beginning to the end. And the beginning means having a consultation and understanding if fasting is right for you at this stage of your life, okay? Because fasting is not for everybody. So classically, if you are pregnant or breastfeeding, if you have type 1 diabetes, if you are very underweight, BMI under 18.5, and or if you are very sick, then, fasting might not be for you. Or if you're very sick, fasting might be for you, but in a very highly specialized, facility. Everybody else, they could potentially benefit from fasting. But again, there are other aspects of their lifestyle and their physical and emotional health that need to be considered, okay? So if you're highly traumatized, you've gone through a high period of stress, you want to calm down first, and then you can fast, for instance, okay? Once I assessed that you are capable to fast, then there is a methodology that helps with fasting. So I mentioned earlier that research has been done on water-only fasting, which is quite an aggressive form of fasting because you get no vitamins, no minerals coming in at all, okay? You just drink water. The type of fasting I do is a little bit more a little softer if you want, is still extremely effective, but you take typically a couple of hundred calories a day through green juice, coconut water, and then we have a range of supplements that can be aimed at targeting different parts of the body, like the liver, for instance, or the intestine, etc. And also we absolutely recommend that you have some sort of colonic therapy, because during fasting, particularly if you tend to be constipated or a little bit out of balance, you're not going to be able to go to the toilet naturally. So we do enemas, which is a very simple way for you to have a bowel movement. Some other fasting places, they do colimas or they use different laxative stimulants. So my way of doing it is through enemas. So you want to make sure that you pass a bowel movement a day at least, because that's a very good way for the body to get rid of, toxins indeed, because, you are going to go through a regime which is aimed at rebalancing the body. Mm-hmm. And side effects of it is that the body is going to sort of metabolize and work on different aspects, and we want to make sure that toxins are flushed out as much as possible, for instance, okay? Not just that, but again, the first 2-3 days tend to be a little bit more challenging because there are different types of hormones that get stimulated through fasting, and particularly there are lots of effects on insulin. Insulin is a very powerful hormone in the body, is extremely important for blood sugar regulation, but also for the regulation and intake of protein, fats, etc. And when you have a lifestyle which is not optimal, and particularly you tend to have a diet which is not based on whole food, is not balanced, etc. It's maybe high in processed carbohydrates, sugary stuff, soda, etc. You're going to have challenges with your insulin and with your blood sugar levels. And fasting is great because nothing is coming in, or very little is coming in. Your insulin response go to zero pretty much. And with that, lots of other hormones get upregulated and downregulated, because insulin is such an important hormone in the body. So you have ghrelin and leptin, which are hormones that regulate appetite. They're going to be reset because you're not going to be eating. And you're going to have growth hormone being stimulated. You're going to have adrenaline and cortisol also being stimulated. So there are some benefits and disadvantages of it. But anyway, you're going to go through 2 or 3 days where lots of changes going to happen in the body metabolically, and you're going to have emotions related to that. So it's very beneficial to have somebody who is very solid, very knowledgeable, that can lead you through these first 2, 3, 4 days, and then you'll be able to experience fasting in the best possible way. You'll get all the physical, emotional, and psychological benefits, and you'll be very happy at the end of it. So,
Luca, on average, to do a fasting like that for detoxing, how long would it take?
It really depends on the person, yes. So any kind of fasting has an impact on your well-being, yes. So it can, stimulate different processes in the body. If you are very overweight, like if you're morbidly obese, for instance, and you are very toxic because of the type of lifestyle and diet that you use, then fasting could be applied to your lifestyle almost on an ongoing basis, or you could fast for much longer, because through the process of ketosis, so the body uses 2 different types of fuels for energy production. The preferred method is through glucose, and the body, after a couple of days of not having any food coming in, is going to gradually move away from using glucose for energy production, because glucose can be made by the liver through gluconeogenesis, but after a couple of days, 2-3 days, depending on the person, the age, and the sex, etc., the body doesn't like to produce a ton of glucose from the liver. So the body is going to tap into your fat reserves. You're going to take triglycerides from your fat cells, split them down, create ketone bodies, and feed fat, this type of processed fat, through the liver, to the cells directly. So through the process of ketosis, you are able to use your body fat as a form of fuel for a rather long time. So if you're morbidly obese, you have so much fat, the body gonna love fasting, because eventually you'll be able to tap into these fat reserves and use them at the same time. Of course, in water-only fasting, you're gonna run out pretty quickly of water-soluble vitamins like B vitamins and vitamin C. Now, through the process of autophagy and apoptosis, the body is gonna break down cells and is gonna find, different cofactors, vitamins, minerals in the cells is breaking down. That's why you can still do water fasting for a long time, and you're not gonna get scurvy. Okay. But, particularly if you're a little bit older, or you're not very, if you have various challenges, adding vitamins and minerals to the fast can make the fast a little bit gentler. Remember that gentler means less impactful, and in this case could be good, but anything that is gentle can be seen as soft or weak, and anything which is strong, impactful can be seen as aggressive. Everything is a matter of perspective depending on you specifically. Okay, so the type of fasting I do, I like to add supplements to it because they make the fasting a little bit easier, still very effective. They give you vitamins, they give you minerals, herbal preparations that can target the different aspects of the body. And through that, you'll be able to very effectively rebalance yourself, get rid of toxins, work on your digestive system, for instance. You work on your cardiovascular system, work on your endocrine system, and get all the benefits of fasting.
It's great. I'll make a quick comment. I love the fact that, coming back to what you said about the scientifically minded, it's so great to have the combination when you offer the exact biochemical reactions that are happening, while at the same time have the spirituality. It's fantastic. Luca, let me ask you also about healthy nutrition. So we talked about fasting. So when we decide to break the fast and start eating again, and I mean in general, I don't mean after a fast, but in general, having been in the Western world and knowing what people eat, how could you summarize maybe some of the principles that people should follow in terms of healthy nutrition?
Sure. First of all, I'll say stay away from diets. Diets can be extremely powerful in the short term if you want to rebalance or you want to work on a specific ailment, but they need to be, again, supervised and done with lots of rationale and done properly, and sometimes it's not easy. Instead of moving from the paleo diet to the vegan diet, via, other types of diets, I'll say stick to whole food nutrition, which means foods that are natural, foods that are minimally or not at all processed, foods that contain naturally lots of vitamins, minerals, and micronutrients, as well as bringing high quality macronutrients. So a good portion of protein, healthy fat, and carbohydrates with lots of fruit and vegetables. That's a very simple way to look at fasting. To look at nutrition, and that's what I really don't like about the popular media, because they love to push diets onto people, and there is lots of confusion out there of what people should be eating, really. In my opinion, the best thing you can do is to look at your cultural heritage. You're coming from Greece, so that's lucky, because that's also a very strong culture of healthy, balanced, traditional food. Similarly in Italy. In some other parts of the world, what we used to be called the New World, if you want, maybe people lost a little bit their heritage, and they tend to maybe work very long hours, not cook at all, and they just buy takeaway, take out, ready meals, etc. And that's the problem, really. Problem related to the pandemic we are seeing in obesity, type 2 diabetes, etc. is an unbalanced lifestyle that leads to have no focus on nutrition whatsoever, and leads people to eat packaged food, ready meals, food which is very high in calories and very low in nutrition. But if you think of healthy food, again, different nutritionists going to have different ideas. I am very non-dogmatic about it, and I'll say that healthy food or a healthy meal contains some form of fresh fruit, okay? Contains some form of raw vegetables, like a salad, then some form of cooked vegetables. There could be a vegetable stew, could be a vegetable curry, could be a stir fry, etc. And then contains some good quality protein. And good quality means whole, pasture-raised meat, wild fish, which contains loads of omega-3, etc. You have eggs, and of course, beans, pulses, chickpeas, lentils, etc. contain good quality protein. Yeah? When it comes to good quality fat, we are looking at seeds, nuts. We are looking at omega-3, as I mentioned earlier. We are looking at extra virgin olive oil, extra virgin coconut oil, for instance. Yeah. And when we are looking at healthy carbohydrates, we are looking at whole carbohydrates, and starting with the greens, like broccoli, for instance. All the green vegetables are fantastic. They contain very little starch, and they contain a ton of micronutrients. And then we are looking at the color vegetables, like sweet potatoes, pumpkin, etc. And then lastly, we are looking at whole grains. So I always recommend people to keep the grain portion moderate, and to make sure that the grain are brown, so they contain the fiber, they're natural. And if you think of a very good quality type of grain, you can think like red rice, brown rice, anything that is ancient, or even like grain like quinoa, amaranth, buckwheat. I really like buckwheat myself. And if you combine loads of fruit and vegetables to start with good quality protein and healthy fat, then you have your nutrition in place. And then you can further refine it by adding spices and herbs. For instance, cilantro, basil. We are looking at turmeric, garam masala. It could be saffron. So these are very high in antioxidants, extremely rebalancing for the body, very good for detoxification of the liver, etc. And then if you want, you can also add some superfoods if you want, like spirulina, alfalfa, etc. But the basic nutritional approach I have is fruit, vegetable, fresh as much as possible. Some of them raw, because raw they give you enzymes and they give you chlorophyll, etc. Some of them cooked, because cooked food is easier to digest, is more comforting, particularly if you live in the northern hemisphere, like if you live in the UK, etc., in winter. Yeah. And then your good quality protein sources and a little bit of grains. If you got that and you keep it up 80% of the times, which means that you can still go every once in a while and treat yourself to a pizza or something like that. Why not? You cannot live like a monk. You cannot be dogmatic about food.
Sure.
But if you have a strong culture of food, and that's mostly you either inherited from your family, and that's the best way. But if you didn't, that doesn't mean you cannot learn it, right? You can go to local food markets, you can go to healthy restaurants, you can read, and you can learn how to cook. And if you can spend some meaningful time learning and developing your nutrition, then you'll get so many benefits. You'll feel better, you'll be stronger, higher energy, you'll be fitter. And not just in 20, 30 years' time, you might have more chances of pushing back on chronic disease. Just literally now, the way you experience life now, if you eat well, if you have a diet which is, white bread sandwich with crisps and a soda, the metabolic storm your body is going through, like spiking insulin and then crashing on it, and all the toxins you're gonna get, and the pure lack of minerals and vitamins gonna make you less able, less powerful now. So I highly recommend everybody to do their best without being too extreme or too dogmatic about it, to learn about good quality food and how to eat.
Thank you so much for this very both concise and comprehensive at the same time a description of what belongs in the healthy nutrition. You also, because I wanted your thought, you already answered it in a way, but because there is so much being said lately about plant-based diet. So I actually wanted your thoughts about meat and fish. You already included them. You mentioned both meat and fish. So I just wanted to ask, and you also said at the same time that you are not dogmatic, which I really like that approach, because any dogma, I think by default, it is a dogma. It claims that it is the only truth, whereas there is always the possibility of an alternative, especially in things like nutrition. So that's what I wanted to ask you in a nutshell. Is plant-based for everyone, or is it something that has benefits for more specifically for some people?
So first of all, it's very interesting to see the history of vegetarianism. I wrote a blog post, and it's one of my favorites. I looked at it, from the ancient Greeks and also the ancient Indians, how it developed, to become what is now veganism, which is a new age form of vegetarianism. Okay, and first of all, secondly, I like to say that I support people and people's choices in life based on different factors, including their own personal beliefs and including their religious beliefs. If you are a strict Hindu, you might be vegetarian. If you are a Muslim, you might not touch pork. Same if you're of a Jewish background, no shellfish, etc. So there are different reasons why people decide to follow a diet, and I respect everybody and I support everybody. Okay. Said that, my approach to the way you feed yourself, and particularly to the ratio between the three macronutrients, so how much carbs, how much protein, and how much fat should we have in the diet? This is the really difficult question, because everybody knows that we should have fruit and vegetables, but how much protein in percentage is ideal for you, for me, for Isabella, my girlfriend, or from someone else, right? So there is no clear answer to that. There are many beautiful theories, and I'm just going to mention a couple of them. The first one is through the Ayurvedic lens. We have the dosha systems. So the dosha system says that you are born with certain phenotypes, with certain genetic predispositions that make you more or less prone to do well with more or less protein, fat, and carbohydrates. Okay? A similar look at it is the metabolic typing system. So it says that we are born with different types of metabolisms, and certain people are very fast metabolizers or fast oxidizers. Some other people are slow oxidizers or metabolizers, and some are in between. Okay, so depending on your genetic predispositions, and I'm pretty sure science is going to come up with a great DNA test and going to be able to tell us a lot more. Of course, the genetics is developing very quickly, and we have the ability to test and very accurately people's DNA, but then it's very difficult to interpret the results still. But I'm pretty sure in 5 to 10 years time they'll be able to take a sample of your blood or saliva and to tell you what kind of predisposition you have related to diet. But if you don't know it for sure, the best way is to keep a middle of the road approach where you keep your food high quality and whole to start with, and the ratio carbohydrates, protein, and fat is kind of balanced. Typically, people that decide to go on a plant-based diet, they typically tend to go on quite an high carbs diet. I mean, it's not necessary, but that's what happens in many cases because grains particularly are bring quite a bit of comfort to your food, quite a bit of calories as well. And if you only eat salad, or if you're extremely healthy plant-based person, you'll have to be able to curate your nutrition to a certain extent. And most people in a modern lifestyle, might struggle to have a very good elimination diet. Okay, so in Koh Phangan, I have a direct experience of extremely healthy vegans People that genetically are predisposed to do very well with plants. There is research that shows that a plant-based diet, if done well, might be very good for longevity, because metabolizing meat, and particularly a lot of meat, includes waste products like ammonia, can be tough on the kidneys. There are side effects to it. So if you are predisposed to be vegetarian and you curate your diet very, very well, so you have the time, because many people say a vegan lifestyle, okay? So if you are a mother in some town in the north of Italy or England, and you have a full-time job, you have 3 kids at the same time, and you want to be vegan, without having access to all these wonderful, healthy and balanced vegan restaurants, and without having so much time, you're going to end up becoming a pastarian, okay? So you're going to have a pasta and tomato sauce all the time. And whenever you eliminate food groups or you take away from people's diets, you have to add twice as much. So that's my philosophy, okay? So we're going to take away the meat. Let's see how you do with beans and pulses, because you need good quality proteins, because otherwise you go too much on the carb side, and that can be bad for blood sugar levels, it can be inflammatory, etc. Okay? And then, do you have a passion for salads and vegetables, non-starchy vegetables, because you want to get quite a bit of your calories and nutrition from those? Because if you do white potatoes and pasta, and then you have lots of fat at the same time, because again, some people do very well with fat. And you probably heard of the ketogenic diet. It's been developed to medically treat children with epilepsy, okay? And epileptic children. And it can be very good for calming emotions, for grounding the brain. So there are lots of good advantages, but it needs to be done very, very, very well. So my final answer is, look at yourself. If you feel there is a strong appeal towards a plant-based diet because of spiritual reasons, because of ethical reasons, obviously, meat has an impact on the world, which is a lot more than anything else, then make sure you learn it very well, make sure that you implement the diet very well, and, you're certainly supported here, okay? Everybody else, I'll say, keep every element, every group in. If you want to eat less meat, absolutely, no problem. Make sure you increase the amount of vegetables before you increase the amount of grains. Because, I can take out your chicken breast and double the amount of noodles, but that's not the same, right? So make sure that you do very well with the substitutes, which doesn't mean fake soy products, yeah? It means beans, pulses, chickpeas, nuts, and seeds. And then, you'll be very, very happy and very healthy, hopefully. So.
Fantastic. Thank you, Luca. That's extremely helpful. Thank you very much for sharing that. There are so many more things that I know that we're running out of time. There are so many things that I also wanted to discuss with you. I do have some quick fire questions to ask you. But before that, I would like one more comment on one of the things which is completely out of topic with what we were talking about so far. And that's escaping the rat race and going and living your dream, because you are one of the people who have done it. So my question to you is, for someone who dreams of something like that, what's maybe the first step they could take towards its realization?
The first thing I always recommend people is to have many passions and many hobbies. And if you have passion and hobbies, you'll see that you'll find naturally more time to cultivate and develop a passion or a hobby. And I say many if you're starting from a place where you don't know exactly what you like to do. And some people don't really know. Maybe have a couple of things they like to do, hanging out with their friends, going for a drink, etc. But if you already have a strong passion, that could be it, okay? So if you're naturally predisposed towards liking, a type of sport, activity, a creative pursuit of any type, You feel it, and it's not something that is been given to you. It's something that you actually feel naturally inclined to, and you really enjoy it. Cultivate it, find the time, develop it, bring it up as much as you can. And if that means going in front of people and doing it more and more, etc., just do it. If you have passions and you have ways for you to get excited about something, a discipline, it could be yoga, could be Buddhism, could be reading scientific fiction books, or it could be doing CrossFit. I don't know. Could be anything. Could be absolutely anything. Just cultivate it, develop it, because if you see that your current lifestyle is too taxing to the body, is too demanding from an emotional and psychological perspective, that too often you feel low and depleted, because nobody is completely happy all the time unless you're enlightened or on some form of strong medication. Okay, so it's normal to go through the ups and downs of life. But if you are constantly feeling low energy, depleted, maybe you get sick very often, or your physical body is giving signs of strain, you're putting on a lot of weight, you cannot sleep very well. So these are things that make you understand your current lifestyle is not good for you. And if you have a hobby or a passion to fall back on, you can develop it further, and maybe that could be a way for you to change lifestyle. The other thing I always recommend people is we live in a consumeristic society that is led by the instant gratification, where we love shopping therapies, etc. If you have lots of money because you are working in investment banking, or you inherited it from your father, that's absolutely fine. You can spend it as much as you like. If you see at the end of the year that you're saving very little and all the money you earn goes towards paying for your bills and entertainment and just a standard lifestyle, you gotta do something there too, because you want to have the ability to take some time off and retrain, or at least set up a business or do something which is within your new passion. If you have no money whatsoever and you have no alternatives in life whatsoever, you're stuck. And it's going to be nearly impossible for you to take the courageous, the hero decision of doing something which is against what everybody expects of you, against what you've been doing so far, breaking down this persona, breaking down what you are now, in order to recreate yourself into a higher, better, healthier, happier form. Okay, so passions and a bit of savings. These are just two little takeaways that I would recommend everybody. Okay.
Outstanding, fantastic. I love your passion as well. While you were saying that you have been animated all along, but now you are even more. So it's great to see. Luca, let me ask you also some quick fire questions. So, okay.
Sure.
So what does personal development mean to you?
For me, just learning. It's learning anything and everything, okay? So I have this very strong desire to learn, and the subjects of inquiry are numerous, yes? So learning means understanding what the theory is, and then bringing into your lifestyle and applying it to create knowledge. Mm-hmm. And with learning, you can potentially make more informed, better decisions in life. You can help yourself when life is a little tough in a more moderate, rational, or balanced way. And the personal development is just having the tools, the knowledge to manage life the way it comes, being present within it and experiencing it to the fullest, So that's what it is.
Fantastic. Let's say you could go back in time and meet your 18-year-old self, and you could give him one piece of advice. What would that be?
Wow, I was a little bit self-conscious, and I would make myself go for things a lot more, be a lot more assertive and entrepreneurial from an early age. Coming from my family, I think my creativity was always there, but was a little bit stifled, and covered by some sort of, shame, or a way of like having to conform that I got rid of. So, of course, you want to be in society, you want to be connected with people around you, you want to be very aware of the zeitgeist and the cultural environment you're in. But within that, you want to try to be as free and creative and yourself as you can be. It's literally a balance. And if I could go back, I would make maybe more daring choices with regards to many things, I think.
That's great. And let's say you had a magic wand and you could wave it and change something in the world as it is today. What would you change?
I would want people to come together a little bit more. I see extreme polarization being put upon people. I think people are generally good and honest, and the nature of people is generally, not completely, but generally positive. I think that the world is going through a phase where politics and media manipulation is reaching a higher level, and where this extreme polarization has been put on people, in my opinion, is very damaging for people's mental health, for people's psychology. And I would really want for real conversations, meaningful conversation to be staged, less slogans, less identity politics, and more unity and rational conversations about the present, the future, and the past. Because we live in a wonderful world. Society has developed so much and is a mighty achievement of us as human beings. We should be very proud of society the way it is, because history teaches us that we come from, war and pillaging and terrible things. Yeah. So I'm very proud of what we achieved as a human race. But I think that particularly now we are going through a phase where more friction is there, more polarization, potentially more pain coming for a majority of people, and that's a bit sad.
Indeed. Luca, we've talked about many things. It was a very diverse conversation. Is there anything you were hoping I would ask you, or hoping we would talk about today and we completely missed it?
I think we touched upon many, many different things. We had a couple of things into philosophy as well. I really like different aspects of philosophy. And of course, the Greeks, that's where we come from. The Western civilization, which sometimes in Koh Phangan is thrown upon or seen as, patriarchal or not so good in some ways, because people is very kind of trendy these days to look at the Eastern philosophies and almost seeing them as superior to the Western. I think that Western philosophy is very beautiful, like Eastern philosophy is very beautiful. The two are very comparable. They are very high level, and it's we come from the Greeks, and we come from Plato, Aristotle, and Democritus, etc. And I would love maybe in a different time, in a different space, if you do come to Koh Phangan on holiday, to have more conversations about like maybe Western philosophy or different aspects. Maybe the dichotomy between the individual and society, or the dichotomy between living in the present moment and planning for the future. I like to see extremes, and see sort of the range of opportunities people have, and how people choose or are led to live a lifestyle within this range. So I'm sure I'll have the opportunity to meet you in person, and maybe we'll chat more about philosophy.
We'll talk about philosophy for sure. Brilliant. Luca, how can people connect with you and find out more about you? I know that you have an amazing blog, which I was reading before we talked.
So the blog is 6 years old. I post once a month only, but my goal and my intention is to post once a month for the rest of my life. The blog is called nutriyogalife.com, nutrition, yoga, and lifestyle, and I recommend people to take a look at that. And if they are interested to come to Koh Phangan particularly and experience the yoga village of Koh Phangan, the holistic village and the community here, which is very beautiful and very interesting. They can also reach out to me. And my two sort of, business sites are smileynutrition.com, which is my online offering of nutrition, fasting, intermittent fasting. And Smiley Retreat is my retreat center. It's a premium retreat center. It's like almost a 4-star location, and it's a very comfortable place, and it's a very interesting space for people to experience whole food, intermittent fasting, full fasting with yoga, holistic classes, etc. So either way, but I'll say start with a blog, because if you read a couple of posts, you see if you like the way I perceive the world, my model of the world, and if you resonate with me, then you might want to come to Koh Phangan. If you do come here, please reach out, because I can help you. Even if you don't stay at the Smiley Retreat, I'll be still happy to recommend you different places and different yoga schools and courses, etc. Okay.
Fantastic. Luca, thank you so much for this fascinating conversation that we had today. I told you before we started recording, I had the feeling that we would be talking for a while, so we have. Thank you so much. I wish you all the very best with your life, and it's amazing and very inspiring seeing people that completely change their life and they do what they want to do. I'm leaving aside for the moment the other elements like the spirituality, which are so important. But even without them, it's very inspiring. So thank you very much. Any last words, parting words?
Well, I like to thank you very much too. I have to say you have a very strong presence and a very nice energy. So I really enjoyed, meeting you on video today. And I really hope that we'll meet in person soon, and thank you very much indeed. And yes, so I'm very glad and happy that we did this, and I feel very good now. So
me too. Thank you very much, Luca. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening. Please take a moment to subscribe and review Personal Development Mastery on Apple Podcasts, and also share this podcast with someone who you think will benefit from it. If you want to gain access to exclusive content while supporting this podcast, then become my patron. The link is in the show notes, or you can type bit.ly/pdmpad. If you want to know more about what I do and how I can help you, or if you have any questions, join my Facebook group Personal Development Mastery. Again, the link is in the show notes, or you can simply type bit.ly/pdmgroup. And until next time, stand out, don't fit in.